Imagine a place where the boundaries of age, industry, background, and culture melt away, replaced by a shared desire to explore the depths of our collective experiences here on the open, shaded porch. Amidst an atmosphere of serenity and tranquility, leaders from all walks of life gather to share their stories, the stories that shape their very beings and doings. This is the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof.
Joining me on the porch is Tianmeng Xu, a visionary disrupting venture capital funding for humanity's next chapter. Known fondly by friends as TX, her investment collaborations empower cutting-edge startups to ignite progress across deep technologies, from AI to pharmaceutical breakthroughs. She builds bridges between the exponential world being born and the timeless values that uplift our shared future. TX, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Laila. Thank you for having me today.
So let me start by saying that reading your impressive bio, I was going through it just before this recording, and I was really kind of captivated by a line in your bio that captured my attention, which is blending reverence for tradition with forward-looking innovation. Wow, what a line, what a line. Can you please explain more about this? How and what do you mean by that?
So, first time I stepped into the venture capital field as an entrepreneur, but that was super early. That was back to my middle school in China. So I was sent to boarding school when I was 6 years old, the elementary school. So I separated from my parents. As my dad said, I didn't cultivate a really good study habits. That leads me to a little bit addicted to video games when I was at middle school. My mom's reaction was, hey, I probably want to send you to some, they got some institution that force you to quitting video game or any kind of addiction. But my dad was like, maybe you don't want, it's just like a flow. You don't want to stuck it. You want to make it go smoothly. What about you going to a game company that my friends probably gonna invest? And if you go, I'm going to invest with my friends together to put you in that company. And I was so childish and naive. I was so happy because I can be some kind of a boss of a game company. And I was so excited. So I decided to go to that game company as a middle school student. So we paused the school part. I go full-time to this game company to see how those really talents from China, they come, all the co-partners from Tsinghua, from Peking University, those are the top two universities in China. And I see how they design the game, how they build up the economic system in a virtual world. And all those experience leads me to get along, hang out with more entrepreneurs in Beijing, more tech investors in the especially Haidian district. And that was the first time I knew that venture capital is a thing. Later, when I go to the US, go to Boston, I set up my own fund with a couple of same age friends that both interested in deep technology and biotech and longevity technologies. And then we just came up with an idea, hey, how about we just make it to a legit fund, right? Because if we fight separately, we are weak. But if we fight together, probably we can make some little history. So that's when we set up our Taihill Venture VC fund. And that's where all the magic begins.
That's wonderful. What a lovely story, TX. What a lovely story. So where is that part of tradition comes in this equation? I heard the innovation, I heard the tech, I heard that early fascination with, virtual reality, gaming, all this excitement about the new world out there. What about that link with older wisdom? Is there a link there, and where does it come from?
I think part of it come from my family. My grandparents, both sides of my grandparents, they are all believes in Buddhism. And when I was so little, I remember my grandpa was kind of forced me, it's not forced, but like kind of forced me to recite all ancient books from Buddhism. Especially in China, we got some philosophy called Taiji. It's like some kind of values that you don't want to go too left, you don't want to go too right, you just stay in the middle. And that's actually a little bit contradict with some of the venture capital values, because like a start right now, Sam Altman, he actually advocates for a little bit extreme lifestyle, because he thinks that if you are living an average life, you're gonna get an average outcome. So you got to be a little bit extreme. But in China, in the classic traditional values, we believe in that you don't want to go too far, right? You just maybe stay in the middle and you try a little bit, you go out a little bit, and then you're going to come back. I think those kind of traditional philosophy values, it's deeply rooted when I was a little child. And as for now, let's say in our work life, my partners, some of them, I would say a little bit, it's not extreme, but they choose to be 100% focused on just one field. They only hunting opportunities from, let's say, biotech track, but they give up all other opportunities. But as a general management people, I would like to sit in the middle and look at a bigger whole picture. That's probably how I practice this classic and traditional philosophy into the real life. And I know that a lot of people that work in venture capitalist field that at my age, they choose to some more modern and electronic lifestyle. I'm not sure if you get what I mean. Like they tied up with their iPhone every day, but I kind of lean to a digital break every month, and maybe go back to a farm and just leave me alone. I just want to be a farm girl.
Wow.
A couple days. That's kind of traditional and classic in my friend's opinion, and that's what I choose to live right now.
That is amazing, amazing. For me, it just kind of hits a chord because I don't think I have been brought up with those values as much as I kind of started learning them as I grew, and as the pressures accumulated on my plate from, all around, from the technology, from the social arena, all that just kind of reminded me at one point that I think we need to disconnect. We need to take a break. And now you're a millennium, you're a younger generation, TX, and you kind of figured it so early. I think that's very lucky. And you're practicing it, and not only you, your generation, right? So that's, I think, amazing. It comes from those traditions, what we were talking about, that you have learned. But I would love to kind of go back to that middle point when it comes to investments, because you kind of talked or touched on 2 points that I noticed. One is that you can see kind of the whole picture from when you are in a middle point. And a second point you talked about was the diversity in being kind of a risk taker in different fields and not focusing only on one field. So if we want to talk about the big picture first, so what are the techniques? Because I know and I do believe in the big picture as much as I believe in focusing on the parts, zooming out and looking at the big picture together with understanding the details of the parts can be an amazing, great vehicle to take great decisions. So tell me more about that before we talk about the other part.
I think one of my gifts, I'm kind of really lucky because a lot of my colleagues and same age peers, they only focused on only like primary market, only focused on venture capital. But firstly, my family is doing energy and infrastructure in China, and related to some real estate project and some business related to land. So that gives me advantages to learn how to deal with the government from a little, and that makes me see how a different industry, how they work. Like it's huge difference between agriculture and finance industry. Um, and if you are sitting in a real estate developer's seat, you are going to see Chinese policy or the international policy in a so much different way. It's not only about technology. It's not only about how fast and how much multiple times we earn from a company. You think about what this product, what this technology really brings to people, to real life, and how we utilize this technology to achieve a final goal, to live a fulfilled happiness life, not just to I make money during the process. It's about the real goal. It's about the real life. And that gives me an advantage to look at a new technology or a young group of talented entrepreneurs, to value them in another perspective. I wouldn't say it's a higher dimension because everyone is so smart, so clever in this industry, but it just gives me a much larger perspective to view the little project. For instance, some of my peers, they just view the technology, how advanced are they, which lab they come from, which professor is working on it. But we want to see, if you are doing a product, how do you handle the logistic, right? For example, maybe this entrepreneur team, they just come from Stanford or Harvard, but you are still students. How do you handle all those logistic, heavy, dirty work? How do you handle it? How do you deal with the workers in that industry? Can you do it? Can you really sacrifice something for your dream, for your goal? It's I think my family background helped me to view this world in a more complex or multiple dimension. I think that's maybe it could be an advantage. So that's the way I sit in the middle. That's how I look in the bigger picture.
I see it as a great advantage because I think what you're saying in the terminology of knowledge mindfulness is you can see the interconnections. So that's an amazing advantage because you said something. What comes out of that is that you don't see business as only making money. You just jumped, you said, you know what? It's not about making money only, it's about life. So what is business for TX more than making the money?
Well, I think it's simple. It's just peace and happiness.
And where does that come from? Happiness. It's a big word, right? Where does happiness for you come from? I mean, examples, like tell me one example where you feel that peace and happiness.
I used to think that happiness comes from successful, from the you are on the ranking, top of the rank. But this year, I don't think in that way. I value my relationships in real world much more. Probably back to 3-4 years ago, my friends would call me cold-hearted because I only value the returns, the numbers, all those fixed stuff in a paper. But as I am growing, the more and more I realize how precious is a real friend is, and how important your family is, and how important my health is as we all going through the COVID. So I think peace and inner peace and success and happiness, it's not about the world. It's not about the outside environment. It's about how you deal and how you gonna treat and handle yourself. For example, I mean, I was so hardcore with myself. I could just, it's so usual in the US education environment. I believe a lot of our friends are all like me. We only sleep um, 5 to 6 hours per day. In an extreme case, let's say final exam or some when we got to work, maybe we got a presentation, we need to see a really important investor tomorrow, then maybe today we only slept for 4 hours. That's okay. That's usual. But as when I grow older, I realize a good sleep quality is everything. You don't need to take all those medicines. Just drop your pills. Just take a long 8 hour nice sleep, and it will fix everything. So that's just a really simple case of how I found my happiness at the moment.
And what do you think contributed to your maturity to realize all that at a younger age? What really kind of fed your thinking and your beliefs that changed you so much in the last 2 years, 3 years?
I mean, COVID obviously helps a lot. I mean, my families are still whole, still here, but some of my really good friends' family, they left because of the COVID. And during the Shanghai lockdown, I'm not sure if you see the news, but we got a huge lockdown in Shanghai, and it gives me all those um, accidents. And especially when we back to Boston, the first hit of the COVID in the US, Fawaz and I and a lot of our common friends, we were all stuck in Boston, and there's no one on the streets, and we just sneakily set up. We maybe met at Back Bay, and then we jogging near to the Charles River, and all those little things came up together, makes me wondering about what's really matters in life. It just helped me to grow so fast. And when the COVID keep going in the US, I realized, oh, I really miss home. Maybe I want to go back to China. I want to stay with my parents. So I just start to fighting for a ticket, because the tickets to China was so expensive, and you got canceled all the time. You have to wait and pay a high price. And all those makes you think about what matters, what's the really valuable thing, and what makes a life really meaningful and fulfilled. So, I mean, COVID obviously helps me a lot from a kid to a little bit mature.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I think you're right. COVID has, I think, the kind of that space that it provided for, it was a universal thing, by the way. Many people around the world felt the same thing, because we were forced for the first time to take a pause, to, stay still. And that gave us time to reflect, which we never had the time or never even paid attention to the importance of reflection. But that brings me back to the value of Buddhism and how, meditation being a big practice, not only in China, I think it's around the world. It has been like a fire going all over the world. So tell me more about meditation. What is your way of meditating, and how do you do it? When do you do it? And what do you feel about it?
Well, at the first beginning, when I get to know the concept of meditation, I thought it's supposed to be like super serious. I gotta take a shower and then everything, and sincerely sit down in a special little mat, and then meditation starts. But as I practice and communicated with others more and more, I realized you can do it anytime, and you can do it everywhere. And it's more about you are talking to yourself. It's just like comb your hair, right? You are combing your thoughts. It helps me a lot. And when I encounter some conflicts or huge pressure during work, especially from work, I started to do meditation. And later, it just became an habit. Sometimes if I feel a little bit tired, I feel a little bit boring, I feel a little bit confused, I just sit there and started to do it. It become part of my life right now.
Wow, that's really, really amazing. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of, I don't know, this kind of anxiety and stress. I think your generation and even all the generations, not only your generation, it's what I call the modern world symptom that comes maybe out of competition, out of, like we said, we were talking about the values that we learn, through the culture, through the media, through all this. So, how do you counterattack? How do you fight these learnings that is not so helpful as much as poisonous in many ways? Do you have your own techniques in doing so?
I used to be very aggressive, but I just gradually I just changed because you realize it's not about the world. It's not about your competitioner. It's all about yourself. What's the point to be so angry, to be so competitive, to like you want to catch, just make full so I can win. It's not about him or her. It's about you. And my friends always saying that if you focus on shit grows. If you focus on you grows. And that's actually true. Because there's things that you can control and there's things you cannot control. Just dump those things you cannot control and focus on the things you can improve.
It just brought a thought I read from Lao Tzu, of course, from the Taoism. It was one of the principles that resonated in my mind that talks about that space of creativity, that feminine energy where, all the new ideas, all the creativity kind of comes out from us, but we just need to connect with it. What do you think of that?
I think space is very important because I used to like to stuff my calendar with everything. Or like if I only got 1 hour, but I make 3 things going at the same time. That's what I used to do. And then I just realized you are not fully capable of everything. You have to admit it. You are just a human being. You are not a machine. You cannot do multiple tasks at one time. I think human beings at this age, we are so fulfilled with information, good information, bad information. You want to stop them, but you cannot. They just come at you from every direction. So you have to, maybe at this modern age, we have to deliberately shut down some doors and windows at certain times. I just want to be with myself and reflect and think. And I think we need to deliberately create that space to let yourself, to echoing with yourself.
Very true. I think also with the technology, this social bonding has been affected. It's not even about us having time with ourselves, even having time with our family, with our loved ones. Because sometimes you see this, scene in a restaurant, at home, where, yes, the family is gathered together, but everyone's on the phone. So again, what do we do? It's like my mother, she had this, rule. When we go to a visit, everyone has to have his mobile in a basket. Put it there. Don't come with your mobiles. So you're right. We have to intentionally, deliberately think consciously about how do we disconnect in many ways, because how can we regain our sanity, our, like you said, calmness, composure, because that's what we need to take, good decisions even in our lives. And that brings me back, because in your CV, you were talking about how you championed visionary deep tech startups. So deciding on which startup to invest in and all that, do you think your decisions usually come more from your head, heart, or gut?
I think there is still a great wall, like between this gap, I was someone, and after this gap, I was another one. I am now. So I would say that gap is around 2017 to 2019. That was when I was still in college, and I graduated from 2018 and started to really full-time practice my venture capitalist career, and then got a little bit mature. But I invested the Xtopi, the first, as in China, it's the top AI pharmaceutical unicorn startup. and I invested in the Lightelligence, which they made photonics chips for quantum computing. But they are the two companies that bring me the most high reward outcomes. But when I do the investment decision, I was following my guts. I know there are plenty of the market, there are huge market, huge future, good. But like, look at the numbers. You know how the analyst, how they think out or make it up or build the numbers, right? It's a virtue thing. It's not a real thing. Like analysts, they sit up together and they ask each other, hey, how do you think the market is going to be like maybe 20 years ago? They don't know that much, right? As for me, I am really a sci-fi fan. And when I was a little, when I watched the movie Iron Man, my cousin's sister is sitting next to me. She said, "Oh, I want to be Pepper. I want to be marry someone like Iron Man." And I was like, "No, I want to be Iron Man when I'm older." So everything is just followed my guts before I seriously looking at my career. And I think as you grow up, you realize that follow your brain, follow the rules, it's important. They got values. Rules are there for a reason. So you started to learn to respect the rules, respect the laws, respect the common laws. As for this year, I follow my brain more and more, and hopefully they lead me to a good output. But I gotta admit, before I all listen to my heart and my gut, and it looks pretty good.
I don't know. I feel personally that a combination of the three is a good mix in terms of the context you're in. Sometimes we lean more towards our head where there's facts, when facts are available. But what if they're not available or there's not much of that information we need? So what do we do? How do you take a decision? But the thing is, how do you trust your gut? You know, a lot of people have this feeling, they shove it. They say no. On one hand, some could say, oh, I have this intuition, but I don't know how to explain it, how to justify it.
Firstly, I gotta say, I think it's naturally, maybe it's from your gene, because I am a northern, as the Chinese call northern blood. One of my grandmother is Mongolian and one of my grandmother is Manchurian. So they all come from the pretty northern area. That gives me I'm just not that sensitive in some ways. Sometimes there was an example that there was someone that in pretty high places and a little bit mean. And for the one time that he was actually being mean and narcissism, but I didn't realize. I take it as a compliment. And I was going after him. I was like, oh my God, really? Thank you so much. And that made him feel a little bit maybe guilty. And after that, he decided to help me because, of course, there are other reasons. I was doing pretty well too. But maybe I think sometimes people, especially modern kids, as our generation, we are loved by not only our parents and our four grandparents and maybe our cousins or something. We are like a flower in the greenhouse, and sometimes that lead us to overthinking sometimes, and especially during the grow up process, we have multiple movies, music, books that show us how to be emotional, how to be sensitive, how to be sympathize with everyone. And that's a good thing. That's a great, precious trait. But that also leads someone to be overthinking, overly sensitive. And sometimes I think it's great to be sensitive because that's how you make yourself a truly human being. But how to use your sensitive and when to use it, and can you really use it, or your emotional is using you? I mean, I ride horses sometimes. And when I started, first time I tried to ride a horse, I was so little. I was probably 5, 6 years old. My grandma has to use some things to tie me with the horse because my legs was too short. But I feel I'm so powerless. I was controlled by the horse. I was leading by them. I'm not in control. And the same meaning as your emotional traits. Are you really using the horse? Are you really leading the horse? Or are you really leading your emotional, or it leads you? They got huge differences. And I mean, especially in the AI generation, the machine is gonna do so much things for us. Just take a really simple example. When we're using iPhone, it helps you to auto imagine what you want to say later, right? When you type I, they tells you to type am. So sometimes they helps you to do the thinking, but you cannot let. I mean, you can, of course, you can, but I suggest not to let by the machine. Rather, you need to get that concept all the time that machine is here to help you. It's definitely not here to replace you or to lead you. So back to our question, how am I navigate my confidence and to be brave? I think practice your thick skin, and there's nothing to lose, right? We are all civilized human beings. You make some mistakes. I'm not gonna not talk to you forever. I'm not gonna trashing you in front of other friends. I know that we are humans. We make mistakes, and just trust yourself and trust in others more. We are all practice. We are all first time in this world on this earth. We all make mistakes, right? But if you are going with a constructive mindset, I'm here to build. I'm here to make values. I'm not here to make mistakes. And if I make mistakes, it was just an accident. I thought we're gonna build together, right? So if everyone accept that concept, then just go. There's nothing to lose.
I love the way you think about all of this. You're such a remarkable knowledge mindfulness leader. With your mindset, how you experiment with what you're learning, you're not afraid to make mistakes. I think if more and more people in your generation think like you do, we will have a better world for sure. All right, I think this is the perfect place to stop. Next time on the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch, TX shares some advice for people struggling with intergenerational challenges.
Sometimes you gotta show off. You don't need to be that humble. You gotta use your proud as a tool. You need to let them know, hey, I got something better than you. And I'm willing to share that with you if you are willing to cooperate with me, if you are willing to learn it humbly.
You have been listening to the Knowledge Mindfulness Porch with Laila Maroof. If you want to join the movement of knowledge mindfulness and shape the world of tomorrow, go to drlailamaroof.com. The Knowledge Mindfulness Porch is a production of Forbes Books.